We're going from smart to dumb in this video. We're going to start with smart. Me, with my hat on backwards, because I didn't take a shower today. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. Who controls the purse strings? Does the president have any say in the economy versus the Congress? And what's the best way to make judges behave? Can you starve them out of money? We're going to find out in the next video with Sean Spicer, America's favorite honky.
Why doesn't the president have theoretically absolute authority when it comes over the executive branch and the money?
Well, in my opinion, he does. I think that's a winning argument. I mean, there is one person in our constitutional structure who is vested with the executive power, and that's the president of the United States. You know, back during the Bush administration, Sean, people tried to say, oh, this thing called unitary executive theory. It's like a John Yoo, Jack Goldsmith legal theory. It's so scary there. It's literally just a simple textual observation based on Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1. One person has the executive power. It's not the vice president. It's not the attorney general. It's not the coffee fetcher. It's the president of the United States.
Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to torment you with word salad here yet. They invited a chipmunk on the Sean Spicer show.
But the president of the United States, in exercising the executive power...
This is Josh Hammer from Newsweek. Did he take a hit from a helium balloon before he did this segment? Josh, what happened? You got to go through puberty so they drop.
Can delegate to lesser people to issue strong recommendations then that ultimately come to his desk there. That's basically what DOGE is. I view the whole DOGE phenomenon, this Department of Government Efficiency, as being very similar to, let's call it the Domestic Policy Council, which is a fairly recent phenomenon in American history. It's only three and a half decades older. So the
Domestic Policy Council. Too many syllables for my tiny walnut brain to figure out, Josh.
Domestic Policy Council. But they're right there in the Eisenhower Executive Office building. It's kind of the building right next to the White House for those who are not total Washington, D.C. political nerds there. And
yeah, I know someone's a total Washington, D.C. political nerd.
These guys can issue very strong recommendations on the president's behalf to the executive branch that the president has plenary control over there. So it seems...
The president has plenary control. Look at Sean Spicer over there staying awake. Come on, buddy. You got to wake this show up, Sean.
To me, to make a lot of sense. Like, I think that a lot of these anti-DOGE activists are ultimately going to lose at the current Supreme Court. The current Supreme Court, I get a little wobbly sometimes when it comes to these so-called cultural issues. But when it comes to bread and butter, structural separation of powers issues, what does Article 1 mean? What does Article 2 mean?
I couldn't tell you what Article 1 or Article 2 means, just so you guys know.
What does Article 3 mean?
Article 3. Now, that one I know. Actually, no, I don't.
You believe that's the most important part, actually, on the nationwide injunction. It's Article...
Yeah, of course, nationwide injunction, Article 3.
But sticking to Article 2 for a second there, I feel pretty strong that this Supreme Court, as presently constituted, understands what the executive power means and what it entails. And he certainly has the ability to pull back as much funding as he wants to within his executive branch. Now,
yeah, pull that executive funding. I like the way Josh Hammer talks compared to Trump. You know, Trump goes, get me a Big Mac, very, very big. and then all the backfill from the thinkers going like, is this constitutional? We're going to go back to plenary powers. It's the Eisenhower building.
If it comes to something different, such as outright abolishing a congressionally, statutorily created department, such as the Department of Education, yes, you will technically need a statute in order to literally abolish that. But that doesn't mean that you cannot accomplish the same, essentially very close to the same thing via just attrition and firing lots of staffers there.
Okay.
Why doesn't the president
Okay. Well, that was a great attempt. Now, that's how our side talks. Let's look at how the other side talks. Here's Jasmine Crockett with the counter argument. Let's see here.
MAGA there's nothing that I could ever say or do that would make MAGA be like, that's our girl, right?
That's our girl. What would it take for Jasmine Crockett to become our girl? For MAGA to say, that's our girl?
Right? Because, first of all, ton of racist.
Well, now, how are you going to become my girl if you be calling me a racist? So, step one, Jasmine Crockett, don't imply that all of MAGA are racist.
So, never happening, right?
Maybe another reason it's not going to happen besides we're racist doesn't occur to her. She speaks for the people on the left. And now, because you have not had enough wrong, I think we have to go to Mika Brzezinski on President Trump's tariffs. I don't think there's a single positive take on this, she says. You know, one thing when I'm talking about economic theory, I want to go to Mika, a white, rich elitist. Snobs around New York eating her sushi.
Can you walk us through the numbers? And is there any positive take on this?
Is there a number that a blonde could understand?
Well, I can answer the second question first. I don't think there's a single positive take on this.
Okay. Well, this is MSNBC. There's not a single positive take on the tariffs. Not a single one. Okay. Well, I knew that there would not be a single positive take on anything Trump has done in his entire history on MSNBC. So what's new about this segment?
This is all just bad. It's bad, as we talked about before, for inflation. It's bad for economic growth. It's bad for
It's good to see that the left also hired a chipmunk spokesman. It's not just us on the right. We got them on the left.
But let me put this a little bit in perspective. We talked about the stock market today and how bad a day it's going to have. This chart predates that, and it goes back really to the election. And I want to just show you, because Trump's got a bunch, as we also talked briefly about before, of other economic and challenges he's facing. And so the stock market, which is this red line, our stock market, we start out here. And he was doing pretty well after the election. There was this burst of Trump euphoria, as we saw in 2016 as well. But since Inauguration Day, it has basically been straight down for our stock market.
Good. You know what this is called? Revenge on Wall Street. They're all tearing their hair out, jumping off of buildings, throwing their lattes and their sushi aside. In fact, on Wall Street, they're so rich, they don't even jump off the buildings. They tell their assistant, Greg, put the iPad down, jump off the building on my behalf, and they all jump. That's what Wall Street's doing right now. Yeah, we're going to have some adjustments to make, guys, with the market. Dealing with, we're inheriting the Biden economy. I'm not blaming him. You know, Trump's a big boy real estate developer. Give him a little time. I'm a barely literate comic book artist, and I know that you can't start drilling oil in 40 days. You have to get the land thing, you have to get the big machine out there and the pile driver and poke into it and find the oil and then process it, bring it to market. It's going to take some time. It could take a year. And everyone's acting like you're at Dollar General, just slapping a half off sticker on everything, changing the worldwide economy. You don't know how it works. I don't know a lot about money. I know enough to know that on Inauguration Day, the stock market starts going down, and that's Trump's fault because of his economic policy. Might be a little bit of speculation from the Wall Street boys that know that they don't own the party anymore. That party got voted out of office. So yeah, they're going to get some doom.
And that is a combination of anticipation of these tariffs, but also just all the chaos and commotion down there.
Oh, chaos and tariffs, chaos and commotion drives the market down. You know, last time I checked, the market was supposed to be about selling beans and the profit margin on beans. You sell cheddar, you double the price of cheddar, you get a double the profit margin. That's economics. You make the cheddar, you sell the cheddar, you make a little profit on it. And he's talking about feelings of chaos, seeing tariffs coming from a mile away. That's what's animating the stock market. That only goes to show that it's been corrupted, just like science has been corrupted, which science is supposed to be data. You weigh something, how much does it weigh? And suddenly our science is going, well, if the scientist is black, then it weighs this much and it's good. And if the scientist is white, then it weighs this much and it's bad. I wish it weren't that simple, but that's literally what these guys have done to politicize institutions, including these lines on the stock market.
The cutting, the Doge, all this stuff and the uncertainty has really scared the market. And that's actually in stark contrast. China, which has had a terrible run at its stock market, has actually done exceptionally well. And even Europe, which is certainly nothing to brag about on the economic front, has way outperformed us.
Okay, so Europe, you can't brag about Europe on the economic front, but it's outperformed our stock market. You're making a case that their economics are terrible, yet their stocks are up. Same with China. Next thing he's going to try and make the case and go, we should own Uyghur slaves too. So our stock market will go up just like China. See how these arguments are made, guys? This is all politics. Thank you, Chipmunk.
So Trump had a set of challenges already, as represented by the stock market before. And again, before yesterday, because we don't have updated numbers just yet, economists were taking down their projections for the economy for this year. So Goldman Sachs thinks that unemployment...
Goldman Sachs, there's a name I trust. Goldman Sachs. I can trust in Trump, make America great again, or I can trust in Goldman Sachs. They've got our back, guys. Goldman Sachs has our back.
which they thought was going to be 4%, they now think is going to be 4.5%. And these numbers are going to get worse when they put out a new forecast. Inflation, which they thought was going to be between 2 and 2.5%, they now think is going to be almost 3.5%.
And when have the economists ever been right? Especially on inflation. These are the same people that said Biden's economy was strong. You can't trust them, guys. It's all politics. Let it rip. Hold on to your stock portfolio, not the stock, but your retirement is where most of us have our stock portfolio. And remember that Western civilization, it's fragile. You got to be careful with it, gang. As reminded here, this is why we want Trump to be in charge of things, because the Democrats are trying to use judges to stop his policy of exporting these illegals and stopping funding the corrupt U.S.
Civilization is a very fragile thing. In the Western world, particularly in the United States, it's been unraveling as the left and their allies in the courts have intentionally and deliberately facilitated the mass migration of criminal illegal aliens into our communities. These are people who are murdering and raping.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs knows a little something about that.
And pillaging American citizens on American soil, a country that was once the zenith of civilization. America increasingly resembles the third world and is reverting to barbarism, as Ms. Romero's testimony so poignantly underscores. And instead of fighting for the preservation of our communities and the integrity of our nation's sovereignty, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to keep alien terrorists within our borders. And it's so many times district court judges are leading the charge. And I think that Judge Boasberg is an excellent example of that.
Yeah,
civilization is a very...
I support Mr. Gill and I support Donald Trump. Guys, give it some space while we figure out what the president's power is, going back to that Sean Spicer show and Josh Hammer on it. Too many words. Sorry about that. I'm Doug in Exile. Leave a comment. What do you guys think? Do you put your trust in Goldman Sachs on the stock market or Trump? Because I say give him a little space. Give him a long leash. Give him a little time with the economy. I'm Doug in Exile.